Many of us gardeners hold a simple belief close to our hearts. If you have plenty of earthworms, your soil must be healthy. We see them wriggling through the earth, these tireless little engineers, and we assume they are busy creating that lovely dark, crumbly humus we all crave for our plants. It is a comforting thought, isn't it? We add our kitchen scraps to the compost bin, turn it over, and find it teeming with worms. Surely, this means we are on the right track, that our soil is getting richer by the day. But sometimes, despite the bustling worm activity, our soil remains stubbornly average. It might be compacted, it might dry out too quickly, or our plants might just seem to lack that certain spark of vigorous life. The truth is, while earthworms are undeniably a sign of life and are brilliant for aerating the soil and breaking down organic matter, they are only part of a much larger, more complex story. They are more like the couriers and construction workers of the soil world, not the master architects. They munch their way through decaying leaves, grass clippings, and vegetable peelings, pulling this material down into their burrows and mixing it through the soil profile. This action is incredibly beneficial, creating channels for air and water to penetrate the earth. However, the material that passes through a worm's gut is not, in itself, the stable, long-lasting humus that truly transforms soil structure and fertility for years to come. What the earthworms produce is a wonderfully rich vermicompost, full of nutrients that are immediately available to plants. This is a fantastic, fast-acting fertilizer, giving your plants a quick boost of goodness. Think of it as a shot of espresso for your garden. But this material is water-soluble and is used up or washed away relatively quickly. It doesn't stick around to build that deep, dark, spongy soil structure that holds on to moisture and nutrients for the long haul. So, if you're relying solely on your worms to build your soil's foundation, you might find yourself in a constant cycle of adding more and more organic matter without ever creating that permanent, resilient base that great gardens are built upon. It's a common misconception, and an easy one to make. We can see the worms, we can see the compost they help to break down, and we can see the immediate short-term benefits. It feels like a complete picture. But the real magic, the process that creates the deep, dark, stable humus that acts as the very soul of the soil, is happening on a microscopic level. It's a quieter, slower, and largely invisible process, orchestrated not by worms, but by their often overlooked partners in the soil, the fungi. To truly understand how to build fantastic soil, we must look beyond our wriggling friends and delve into this hidden, fungal kingdom. The real secret to creating stable, long-lasting humus lies with a group of organisms we rarely see: fungi. Specifically, it is the saprophytic fungi, the great decomposers of the natural world, that are the master builders of soil. Unlike bacteria, which tend to rapidly consume the simple sugars and soft green materials in your compost, fungi have the unique ability to break down the tough, woody, carbon-rich stuff. They possess powerful enzymes that can digest lignin and cellulose, the complex compounds that make up wood, cardboard, and autumn leaves. This is a slow, methodical process, not a rapid feeding frenzy. As these fungi digest these tough materials, they weave intricate thread-like networks called mycelium throughout the soil and compost pile. These threads act like a microscopic net, binding tiny particles of clay, silt, sand, and organic matter together to form stable soil aggregates. It is this aggregation that gives healthy soil its wonderful crumbly, open structure. More importantly, as the fungi live and die, their bodies, which are rich in a substance called chitin, and the complex substances they exude, become the building blocks of humus. This is a dark, sticky, carbon-rich material that is incredibly stable and resistant to further decomposition, lasting in the soil for hundreds of years. Think of it this way. Bacteria are like sprinters, burning through the easy-to-access sugary green materials and releasing nutrients quickly. Fungi, on the other hand, are the marathon runners. They slowly and steadily break down the tough carbon-heavy brown materials, and in doing so, they lock that carbon away into the stable structure of humus. This is why a forest floor is so rich and spongy. It's not because it's full of worms eating kitchen scraps, it's because it's a fungal-dominated system, constantly being fed a diet of woody debris and fallen leaves, which the fungi expertly convert into deep, permanent humus. Therefore, a truly healthy garden soil is not just a collection of worms, but a complete and balanced ecosystem, a bustling soil food web. It needs the bacteria to release quick nutrients, the worms to aerate and mix, and a whole host of other microscopic creatures. But crucially, it needs a thriving fungal population to do the heavy lifting of building long-term structure and fertility. If your soil is dominated by bacteria, it will be fertile for a short time, but it won't hold on to water or nutrients well. By shifting the balance to favor the fungi, you begin the process of creating a truly resilient and self-sustaining garden. So how do we encourage these marvelous fungi in our own gardens? It often starts with the compost heap, and this is where many well-intentioned gardeners go wrong. A common mistake is to create a compost that is far too rich in green materials. This includes things like grass clippings, kitchen scraps, and soft plant cuttings. These materials are high in nitrogen and break down very quickly. While they heat up the pile and produce compost in a short time, this fast, hot process creates a bacterial-dominated environment. It produces a perfectly good soil improver, but it will be low in the fungal life needed to build proper humus. To create a fungal-rich compost, you must change the recipe. You need to tip the balance heavily in favor of brown materials. These are the carbon-rich, tougher, and often drier ingredients that fungi adore. We are talking about things like shredded cardboard, torn-up newspaper, wood chippings, sawdust, straw, and, most importantly, fallen autumn leaves. A good rule of thumb for a fungal compost is to aim for a carbon-to-nitrogen ratio of at least 30:1, which in practical terms means using a much greater volume of browns than greens. Don't be afraid to be generous with the woody materials. They are the key. Building the heap should be a slow and steady process, much like the fungal decomposition itself. Instead of turning it frequently to keep it hot, you should build it in layers and largely leave it be. This creates a cooler, more stable environment where fungal mycelium can establish and spread without being disturbed. It will take longer to break down, perhaps a year or more, but the end result is worth the wait. The finished compost will be darker, woodier in texture, and absolutely teeming with the fungal life that will go on to build humus directly in your garden beds. This is not a quick fix. It's a long-term investment in your soil's health. When your fungal-rich compost is ready, it has a beautiful, earthy smell, reminiscent of a woodland floor. You might even see the fine white threads of mycelium still visible within it. When you spread this on your garden, you are not just adding nutrients, you are inoculating your soil with an army of microscopic humus builders. This is the fundamental shift in thinking we must make. We are not just feeding our plants. We are feeding the entire soil ecosystem, and most importantly, we are feeding the fungi that will create a healthy home for our plants for years to come. While making fungal compost is a brilliant long-term strategy, there is a more direct and arguably easier way to build fungal life right where you need it, in your garden beds. This method is the cornerstone of the no-dig or lasagna gardening approach. The principle is simple. Instead of digging and disturbing the soil, which breaks up the delicate fungal networks, you build fertility by layering organic materials on the surface. This perfectly mimics the way soil is built in nature, on a forest floor, where leaves and branches fall and decompose from the top down. To start a new no-dig bed, you begin by laying down a layer of plain cardboard directly onto the ground. This suppresses weeds and provides an initial feast for the fungi. On top of this, you add your layers. The most important layer is a generous helping of woody, carbon-rich material. Wood chips are absolutely perfect for this. They break down very slowly, providing a long-term food source that will cultivate a thriving fungal population right at the soil surface. On top of the wood chips, you can add your other organic matter, such as homemade compost, leaf mold, and a final top dressing of well-rotted manure for nutrients. Once your layers are in place, the key is to keep the system happy. This means maintaining consistent moisture. Fungi cannot thrive in bone-dry conditions, so the soil surface should never be left bare and exposed to the sun and wind. A permanent mulch is essential. This could be a layer of straw, more wood chips, or shredded leaves. This mulch acts like a blanket, conserving moisture, regulating soil temperature, and providing a continuous food source for the life within the soil. Watering should be deep and infrequent, encouraging plant roots and fungal networks to travel deep into the soil in search of water. The results of this approach can be astonishingly quick. By changing the way you manage the soil surface, you are fundamentally changing its biology. You are creating the perfect habitat for humus-building fungi to flourish. Within a single season, you will notice a visible change. The soil will become darker, more crumbly, and better at holding moisture. Your plants will be healthier, more resilient to pests and diseases, and more vibrant. It is a powerful reminder that we don't have to toil endlessly, fighting against nature. If we simply provide the right conditions and the right food, the soil's own biology will do the work for us, building that beautiful, dark, life-giving humus, all on its own.